Learning Spaces provides children at risk with catch-up education and psychosocial support. Children not in school are robbed of a brighter future and face higher risk of neglect and abuse. Learning Spaces supports children with little access to school or those at the highest risk of dropping out. Like 13-year-old Saru, who already went to 5 different schools due to her family's financial challenges. She barely passed her subjects. Then, she enrolled in a learning space, and after only 5 months, came second in her class and placed first in her final exams. She had potential, waiting to be discovered. I'll take for example, Ritu, who married shortly after grade 10 at 17 years old, and dropped out of school to focus on raising her child. Unfortunately, early marriages in Nepal prevents many from finishing high school.
I often thought I was incapable, and that further education was beyond my reach. But after joining a learning space, I was encouraged and motivated to pursue my studies. I enrolled back in grade 11, and managed to balance all my responsibilities and finished second in class.
Ritu went on to complete grade 12 with commendable grades, and has since become a role model for the children in her village as a learning space mentor. But more than just education, Learning Spaces teaches children to protect themselves, equips parents with positive parenting skills, and also encourages the community to look out for children.
We used to search for him every night after school. He would go into the jungle and river to play. We were concerned for him, that he might injure himself. Since Learning Space began, he has been performing well. Now he studies, does his schoolwork, comes home on time, and behaves really well. My son, Rydam, is thriving.
When vulnerable children are given a safe space to learn and surrounded by people committed to seeing them thrive, then they can overcome many challenges and conquer mountains to experience life in all its fullness.
धन्यवाद 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 थैंक यू
Welcome to our special Thanksgiving online celebration. If you're joining us live, thank you for making the time today. And if you're watching at some point in the future, well, thank you for taking the time out of whatever you're doing today to spend a few moments celebrating with us and all that's been achieved for children around the world this year. The short film that we have just watched is from Nepal, and it celebrates the work of Learning Spaces, which is a base program that many of our partner networks are involved with to equip churches in communities to support children who are at risk of dropping out of school or may have already dropped out of school. In Nepal, there are currently 800,000 children who should be in school that are not. But also in Nepal, there is 8,000 churches. So imagine if each church could do a learning space to support 100 children back into education. And together, the churches of Nepal could ensure that every single child in the country is in education. That's a dream that is bubbling away within our partner network, CarNet, in Nepal. At Viva, we want children everywhere to have life in all its fullness, but we know that for too many children, they are not experiencing life in all its fullness. This year, half of all children in the world, that's 1 billion children, will experience physical, sexual, or emotional violence. Yet we also know that churches and organisations are already rooted in their communities, ideally positioned to make a difference. And by working together, churches and organizations can leverage their resources and expertise to provide a more effective, longer lasting impact in the lives of children in their communities. So at Viva, we exist to inspire and equip and connect networks of churches and community-based organizations to work together to make a bigger, better, and longer lasting impact in the lives of children. Our model is based around what we call the 4 Cs. It's about connecting, capacity building, collective action, and citywide influences. Connecting happened as churches and community-based organizations and schools come together with a shared vision for children in their city or in maybe a part of their city or maybe in their country. One of the things that we do to support them in the early days is do a situational mapping exercise where we help churches figure out what's already going on in their city. What are churches already doing? What are other actors already doing? What are the needs of the children in that city? With the idea being that if you can reduce the overlap, you can free up resources to fill some of the gaps. And this year we've had the privilege of supporting emerging networks in the UK do situational mapping exercises as they think about building networks in their city. So we've been supporting churches in Oxford, and we've also been supporting churches in a town called Kings Lynn as well, as they look to come together as churches to establish a shared vision for the children of their cities. Next, we move on to capacity building to help these churches, organizations, and schools do better quality work with children. And later this evening, you'll be hearing a little bit more about Viva's quality improvement system and how 6 partner networks throughout Africa have been using that program this year to support churches, schools, and organizations to provide better quality care for children. And then we move on to collective action. It's about churches and organizations and schools coming together to do things they might not be able to do by themselves and to magnify the impact that they're having on the lives of children in their city. And in our meeting today, you'll hear about our CAFES program, which is a expansion on the Learning Spaces program that you heard about in that video at the beginning. CAFES run across Latin America, and you'll find out more about how they are impacting the lives of thousands of children now across Latin America. And then what we've found over the years that as more churches and organizations and schools are connecting together as what they're doing for children is better quality, as they're demonstrating the impact they're having through collective action. They have the opportunity to have citywide influence. They have the opportunity to influence government policy. They have the opportunity to influence legislation that impacts the lives of children. And also, they can come together to run campaigns that change the culture and change society's attitudes towards children. So one such initiative is the Good Treatment campaign, which each year see many of our networks from around the world come together for a number of weeks to equip children with resources and to encourage people to care for children, to treat children well. And this year we invested a lot in redoing our Good Treatment campaign resources to ensure that that has more and more impact as we encourage people and then equip people to take better care of children. So in our time together, we are going to spend some time celebrating all the good things that we have seen taken place this year. We're going to pause at various intervals to pray, but we are going to pray via the Zoom chat function. So that means you can pray at any point during this evening. So if you would like to say a prayer of thanks, just type it in the chat. And after each section of this evening, we are going to pause for 30 seconds or so, just so people can write prayers of thanks in the chat. So we're going to begin by handing over to Kezia, who is the Chief Operating Officer at Viva, and she is going to give thanks for an online conference that we had earlier this year.
Thanks, Phil. Yeah, so one of the things we're grateful for over this past year was that we brought back Cutting Edge, which if you've been around Viva for a while, you'll remember. It's something that people often refer back to as something that they really enjoyed when Viva used to bring together childcare practitioners in places all over the world for conferences that were really at the cutting edge of learning and issues that were facing children at risk. And they were always a really amazing time that people came away from really equipped to work with children more in their communities. So this year, over 200 people from all over the world took part in a 3-day online conference this July. Partner networks were able to share. We also had external experts on particular issues, and they were able to come together to share good practice and learn together on some of these issues, which included these issues. It was great to see some real in-depth stuff around working with children who've been through trauma, and also thinking about technology and how we can use AI in a positive way and keep children safe online. So it was really encouraging and just really wonderful to see networks really energized by that, and also people from outside Viva coming in and able to share as well. To give you a flavour of that, we're going to share a video with a few clips from the event. And this will include Menchit Wong, who for 30 years has been advocating globally for churches to include children in their ministry and mission. It will include Dr. Winnie Fung, who is the Chief Executive of Cedar Fund, an independent Christian relief and development organisation in Hong Kong, and Dr. Susan Hillis, who's one of the world's leading voices in public health and ending violence against children, with over 150 academic publications. And it will also include Phil. So yeah, Phil, if you're happy to share that.
Well, welcome everybody. Welcome brothers and sisters to the Viva Cutting Edge Conference. Well, my heart is so warmed up today because the Cutting Edge Conference has been a defining moment in my life. Ever since my friend Pine Gutierrez from the Philippines attended the first Cutting Edge Conference in 1998, things were never the same for me. I remember Pine coming back from that conference, sharing her heart and burden for children at risk around the world, even speaking to the head of our Evangelical Alliance in the Philippines to invite as many ministry organizations working with children to work together, no longer in competition, but in collaboration, no longer in duplication, but in synergy, no longer in disunity, but in real loving and working together. You know what? The cutting edge conferences that came after that, where I was a part of, I have seen how movements, literally movements and networks for children were given birth through the many discussions, through the many collaborations, through the many cutting edge conferences that took place afterwards. The child theology movement, the 414 window movement, the 1 for 50 movement, the commission for children at risk, even the movement for World Without Orphans. I could really say that God has used the Viva Cutting Edge Conference to bring about the hubs of light. Remember Patrick McDonald's vision of seeing hubs of light around the world, where the Christians around the world are making an impact for children at risk around the world. Well, Patrick, if you're listening right now, I'm sure that your heart has been warmed up so many times because you know that around the world, the global church, the global body of Christ is at work, and as the Holy Spirit is on the move.
We really need to have stronger collaboration and partnership. There is a need for collective response instead of competition. There is going to be limited funding resources, and this is not going to be reversed in a short period of time. But instead of competing for limited resources, we need to put off organizational self-interest, but remind ourselves that we are all acting under the big umbrella of God's kingdom, and that we are engaged in a broader vision and mission. We need to identify new partnership models and collaboration opportunities with each other.
So I'm going to start out with something a little bleak, but it's a sculpture, larger than life sculpture. I have seen it in the city of Moscow in Russia. And here you see that what I really want you to take away is the polycrisis era requires cutting edge solutions. And we are the ones that have received them and will be taking them forward, just as the last speaker so brilliantly shared. The polycrisis emergency, I'll talk a little bit more about why I'm saying that, but I want to talk about this sculpture a minute. You see these two beautiful golden children, little girl and little boy in the front, trying to play ball, and they are flanked in the back by 13 grotesque statues that represent the things that threaten children. And the title of the sculpture is Children Are the Victims of Adult Vices, like alcoholism, exploitation of child difference, etc., labor, etc. But what is shocking about it when you see it in person is most of the statues are about 2.5 meters tall, but the one in the center is Indifference. And Indifference is actually 3 meters tall. It looms above all the rest. And you can see there, the larger stature between the children. This man has closed eyes, closed ears, and so he's just not seeing any of the evil, that is around him that's threatening children. But the sculptor said, this was conceived and implemented by me as a symbol and a call to fight for the salvation of today's and future generations. As an artist with this work, I urge you to look around, hear and see what is happening, and before it's too late, sane and honest, and I would say godly people need to think about it. So cutting edge solutions, that's the emergency. And the cutting edge solutions, I love this little verse from Job. I've thought about it for many years, from Job 24:16. Indeed, these, he's speaking of the majestic power of God as viewed in nature, are the mere edges of his ways, and how small a whisper we hear of him through these glorious manifestations of his power in nature. So the question before us today is, how can we move from the reality, the bleak reality we have for children, to the future we want for children? And especially since we are in this situation where globally the developed and more wealthy countries are dramatically reducing their generosity and benevolent giving and switching that giving into military applications, their federal budgets into military applications. But I don't think the real main problem is a money problem. I think the main problem is an indifference problem. And then that means the main solution is ours as people of faith to take, because that indifference has to be replaced with empathy and love and compassion and action.
This Cutting Edge conference has had a dual theme. It's been about understanding the challenges and opportunities at the cutting edge of working together for and with children at risk. And it's about recognizing that it's at the edges where things intersect. As complex problems intersect to make life harder for children, we must also intersect, not just with people who think like us, but with those who don't. It's in these overlaps, the edges, where I believe we'll find new energy, new ideas, and the greatest potential for impact. If we can come together, seeing the best in others, bringing the best of ourselves, and working with clarity, then real change is possible, and children will be the ones who benefit.
Let me lead us in a short prayer. God of the small, the seen and the sacred, give us ears to hear, eyes to see, and hearts to welcome. Let our leadership reflect your humility. Let our mission reflect your mercy. And let our lives reflect the children you place among us. May God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit grant us the grace of walking alongside children, as fellow discoverers with odd expectancy, and so engage in the triune God's mission of granting full life to all creation. For we pray in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you, and God bless you.
So Cutting Edge was a real highlight for Viva over the past year. I hope you have been challenged, encouraged, and inspired in equal measure by just those snippets that you heard from those cutting edge talks. There's a whole variety of content available on our website. So if you are interested in hearing the full version of any of those talks, they are all available on our website, along with many others of the presentations that we heard over the course of those few days. As I mentioned at the beginning, we're going to pause after each segment and give you the opportunity just to write short prayers of thanks in the chat. So if you would like to partake in this activity, there's no compulsion for you to do so. But if you would like to write a short prayer of thanks in the chat, please do so. And then we'll move on with our program in a few seconds. We are now very close to next year, with 2026 being just around the corner. And for Viva, next year is a particularly special year because we will be celebrating our 30th birthday. And over the past year, we have spent a lot of time thinking about how we want to use next year to launch into our future. We're not done yet. So we've spent a lot of time thinking about how we want to use our 30th birthday as the launch pad to get to where we want to get to by the year 2030. And throughout this year, we have been asking ourselves three strategic questions that have shaped a lot of our thinking. These three questions are rooted in our past, but we believe will look significantly different in the years ahead as we want to ensure the Viva is fit for purpose and can scale to meet the massive challenges, but also make the most of the opportunities we see in front of us to ensure that we can impact the lives of more children in the future. So the three questions have been these. What is our role facilitating a global network of networks? We believe that there is strength when our partner networks from across the globe come together to share their learning, to share resources, to work together on global campaigns, to put their voice together to speak to the global church or governments around the world or global development agencies. So in the future, one of Viva's key roles will be to facilitate this global network of networks. We currently have 42 partner networks in 26 countries around the world, and we are already in conversation with existing networks that exist to support children that would really like to become part of this global network of networks. So that will be one of our key roles into the future. The second is, what is our role catalyzing new citywide collective action for children? We believe that the vision of life in all its fullness for children is a really important vision, and we know too well that we're not there yet. We also believe that our approach, the approach of bringing together churches and organizations in cities so they work better together to make more impact in the lives of children, is an approach that works. Therefore, we think we need to be doing more of it. So we're going to have a real priority in working with emerging movements, emerging networks around the world to see more churches in more cities working together to make more impact in the lives of children. We have already got at least 10 cities that are interested in getting involved and seeing networks emerge in their cities. There's another 10 cities that we're kind of aware of that could quickly want to follow suit. So we do not think we're going to have a problem identifying cities where we could work. So raising the resources we need to support this work is going to become a top priority for us. And then identifying which of those cities we will work with first is what we will be doing in the months to come. And then the third question we've been asking ourselves is, what is our role collaborating with partner networks on programs? We believe that we have a role in helping partner networks as they come together to shape programs, as they come together to access funding and deliver programs in their cities, in their communities, in their countries. But in the future, we very much are going to focus on multi-network programs where we have networks from different countries coming together to work together on a joint program, because we believe that that's where we can add the most value. We believe that in collaborating with one another, that our partner networks can have a lot more impact than they could by just working in isolation from themselves, by themselves as well. So these have been the three questions that we have been asking ourselves this year, and we have plans emerging to what that will look like in the future. And over the next 30 minutes or so, we are going to showcase three activities that have taken place over the past year, but they also very much point to the future and in the ways we will be doing things into the future. So we are going to begin by thinking about India. And India have been piloting an approach to new networks over the past couple of years. Because in India, they recognize that increasingly in cities across India, churches were working together. They were coming together as movements to bring about social transformation in their cities. However, many of these city movements that were emerging across India didn't have a focus on children. They didn't have an expertise among children. So the Viva team in India have very much decided that in their future, instead of establishing kind of new networks from scratch, they'll work with these city movements that are emerging and enabling them to do more for children, which will enable them to support work in many more cities than if they were having to build something from scratch. So earlier this week, I spoke to Gary, who is the director of Viva India. And just before we get to my interview with Gary, I've just included a little clip from the movement of churches in Delhi, just so you get a bit of a flavour of what they're doing. And then the church leader who speaks at the beginning of this video, he also happens to be the board chair of Viva India. So he is also connected to Viva. But I hope you enjoy hearing a little bit about what this looks like in India.
The Delhi movement is not an organization. It is a movement of God's people dedicated to catalyze, collaborate, create, and celebrate every good endeavor in Delhi NCR. The Delhi movement has been actively catalyzing various initiatives throughout the NCR, encompassing the 5 M's: marketplace, millennials, multiplication, and marginalize, undergirded with prayer and mapping research.
Everyone in the city wants to see transformation in the city. Everybody wants to see God's peace and love and goodness. But the question is, how are we going to do it? Different churches, organizations, non-profits, businesses are doing their bit. There are multiple networks in the city making efforts to bring God's shalom in the city as well. But what we realized is no single network or no single church or business can on their own bring about that change. What is needed is a genuine sense of collaboration and movement.
Well, it's great to have the opportunity to talk with Gary, who is the director of Viva India. And as we prepare to celebrate our 30th birthday as Viva next year, Gary is someone who has been around for a significant number of those years, having now been a part of the Viva team for 19 years. But Gary, over the past couple of years, you've significantly changed your approach of how Viva India is seeking to build and support children-focused networks in India. So can you explain a little bit about what that has looked like in Delhi and why you think this new way of working is so much more effective?
Yeah, hi Phil. Hello everyone. Viva has been forming networks for children, which includes child-focused ministries, churches, and in a city like Delhi, maybe we have like 100 churches and agencies working with children or for children. This we discovered during our mapping research. But when we joined the City Gospel Movement, there are more than 300 churches who have come together to promote the City Gospel Movement in Delhi. And one of the areas we are discovering that many of the churches and ministries desire to do ministries with children, but they don't have the means to do it or the expertise to do it. So that's where Viva comes in and attaches them to the city children's network in the city. So again, it's like a fresh lease of getting new ministries, new churches into the children's ministry network in Delhi.
So am I right in understanding this, that before it was far fewer organizations and churches, and they tended to be the ones that were already quite focused on children? But now you are connecting and supporting a far wider number of churches and organizations. They already have the kind of the network infrastructure in place, but you are bringing the specialism around children, and also in that process engaging with churches and organizations that previously weren't so interested about children ministry. Is that an okay way of saying it?
Yes, definitely. We've had some success stories, quite a few actually, in the last year. Like there were youth coming for the youth apprenticeship program, and we were discovering what is their interest. And two girls, Shalini and Tanuja, they were interested in education. So during our teacher training program, they were equipped, and now they've started a new learning center to teach the children and women who are living on the pavement. So, yeah.
Great. So this it's a movement that is activating people to do more for children and young people, which is great. Now one of your main programs over the past year that Viva has been involved with because of some foundation funding from the US has been around Sunday school training in Delhi. So can you just tell me a little bit about what the purpose of that training was and the impact that that is having?
Yeah, so we recognize that many churches, they felt the need to say, we don't have a good Sunday school curriculum. So organizations like Children's Bible Ministry and Awana, we were networking at the national level, came together and sent their representatives in Delhi to train Sunday school teachers and new teachers as well who weren't doing Sunday school. And I was surprised to meet a boy. His name was Vikas. And he said he's been one of the participants of a Christmas party 8 years ago. And now, after the training, he's leading a Sunday school for 25 children in his church. And also Michelle, who was part of the Sunday school training, and she learned that if we don't reach out to children now, no one else will. So she started, she's become a Sunday school teacher at her church, teaching Bible to the teens at the Sunday school. So you can see there's growth and expertise both happening as we do the Sunday school program and bringing global expertise as well as national expertise to do the training. So we are kind of facilitating and collaborating with the local churches and with international ministries to bring the best practice of Sunday school in Delhi.
And you are now increasingly looking outside of Delhi. And we know that India is a vast country, and you and the Viva India team are very much at the heart of the city movement expansion, as it were, across India, and ensuring that as churches come together in cities across India, that children are very much part of the focus. So, what does that look like over the months and years ahead?
Yes, so just this month, I think 16 city leaders from 16 cities met at a conference where they're talking about city movement, expanding the city movement in their cities. Now, many of them didn't think about children. So there were 17 of us who were working with children at that conference, and we formed a national city network. And the job of the national city networks is to go to these 16 city leaders or leaders of 16 cities and educate them or inform them that here we are there to support you to build networks for children in your city. And these are the resources, these are the expertise and people. There are 17 of us, but more are going to join in. And would you be interested in creating a city network? So I think out of that, there was great response. 6 cities said, yes, we want to create a children's network in our already existing city movement. So now we are planning how do we engage with those city leaders and journey with them and support them in building their city children's networks in their cities. So, and that naturally we do have national expertise, which includes from disability to education to safeguarding to teens and youth to Sunday school ministries. So there's a whole spread of different expertise across the nation that we're bringing together in this National Children's Network, which will support formation of children's networks in the cities. And that's the objective.
Well, no, thank you, Gary. So in Delhi over the past few years, there's been a journey that the Viva network has very much become part of the Delhi city movement, and therefore is able to bring far more churches and organizations together for children. And you're now seeing in 6 other cities at the moment are interested as they build their city movements that creating a children network in those cities is a part of it. So it's so encouraging to hear what you are doing in India and that you're pioneering an approach that we think is going to become increasingly significant for Viva globally, enable us to support so many more churches to work together to have far more impact on the lives of children around the world. So thank you, Gary.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Phil.
It was great to hear a little bit more about what is going on in India. And we will now pause again. So if you would like to, please do write a short prayer of thanks in the chat to thank God for what is happening in India, what has happened in India, and what we hope to see will happen for so many more children as a result of more and more churches and organizations in cities across India working together in the years ahead. Later in our time together, we will be launching this year's Christmas Appeal, and the focus of our Christmas Appeal this year is very much on supporting these new citywide networks that are emerging across India and also the many other cities around the world where we have got the possibility of supporting churches as they come together to start working together for children. But I'll be quiet now for a few seconds to give you an opportunity to write a short prayer of thanks in the chat. So as new networks form, that's very much about connecting. It's about bringing churches and organizations and schools together. The next C, if you can remember the diagram from the beginning, is capacity building. How can we support those churches and organizations to better care for the children that they have the opportunity to support? And I'm delighted to introduce you to Paul and Michelle, who are part of the Viva Global team. Paul is based in Uganda and is our coach in Africa. So he provides all kinds of support for our partner networks across Africa. And Michelle is based in South Africa and is the coordinator of our quality improvement system. And that is the program that Michelle and Paul are going to share a little bit with you now. So, Michelle, I'll hand over to you.
Thank you, Paul. Good evening, everyone. Excited to say we're celebrating a year of implementing our capacity building program using the quality improvement system, which we always refer to as QIS, in collaboration with 6 partner networks in Africa, including Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, Zambia, Zimbabwe, and South Africa. And together, all these networks are working with about 200 organizations, churches, and schools. I'm just going to briefly tell you about QIS for those of you who don't know anything about it. I'm going to give you a whistle-stop tour. QIS is an organizational development tool which provides a framework for organizations and churches or schools, so let's just call them all organizations, working with children to journey towards best practice standards in 6 areas: governance, financial accountability, child safeguarding, planning and design, people care, and child well-being. So organizations on QIS will participate in various activities for each of these module areas. We can go on to the next slide, thanks. And we call this the improvement cycle. So after organizations have committed to QIS, they're able to assess their organizations against the QIS standards, which are best practice standards in each area. They know their starting point, they can assess their gaps, their strengths, and then move on to the equip phase, where they have some workshop training, which really provides some knowledge and skills to help them to reach the standards. And then they move on to improving, so putting their action plans into practice. And we're talking things like maybe a board decides, oh, we do need to maybe write some minutes. Or a church wants to develop a child safeguarding policy. Or a school writes down their planning, their project plans, and makes up their theory of change. This phase is supported by mentors who either through WhatsApp, phone calls, or visits will walk alongside the organizations as they're making the improvements. And then finally, there's a time to reflect and to assess the progress against the standards and where everybody has come after all the hard work. Now, I know it sounds very much like we just work with organizations, but of course, the whole point is that we are supporting organizations to be more transparent, more accountable, safer, sustainable organizations that will positively impact the child. So QIS is a framework that is not a one-size-fits-all approach. So we had quite a lot of fun together, actually, meeting regularly with the QIS facilitators from each network to collaborate and learn together how we're going to implement the QIS program in each country. I just want to say this was a very valuable time for all of us, largely because the experience networks like Crane and Connect in Uganda and South Africa got to share their learnings with the other networks that didn't have as much experience. We were able to build relationships across the network partners. We could share resources and tools, either that they've developed or Viva's developed. And we could talk about contextualization for each locality or country. So we really are moving more towards doing things together, not Viva doing things for, but all of us putting our gifts and our talents and our experience into the mix and coming up with better solutions. I'm going to hand over to Paul to give you a little bit more of the exciting part of QIS. Thank you, Paul.
Yeah, I hope it's an exciting one. Now, one of the things about QIS is that it's an intervention that's aimed at organizations and churches and particular leaders on a journey of growth, a journey of improvement in their organizations. It's also about changing individual hearts and leading to community change. But there's more to it than the organizations. Whereas we are now talking of organizations, it is organizations to become stronger, organizations to deliver quality programs for children and to ensure that they are more effective in responding to the needs of children in their communities. And hopefully, when they're better organizations, have bigger programs, they're reaching many more children, they're better in what they're doing, they're creating longer lasting impact in the lives of children. And that's what we focus on. Starting from the organizations, but more is about children. If I have the next slide. So one of the things we're looking at here is to ensure that we grow into our standards as organizations. Can they practice the best standards of delivering programs? Are they aligned to biblical principles? Are they challenging harmful societal norms and practices towards children? And that's what we're trying to do. It's organizations, but impacting children. And finally, before we go to the last piece of work, we feel that it's been a great opportunity for us to work together with many other organizations and churches where we're building more transparent, more accountable, more sustainable, and safer places for our children and actually for our communities. Let us now share some of the stories, just give you snippets of the experience of those who are delivering this program in 2 examples of our country networks. If we could play that.
Good afternoon. My name is Chimama Kobe, and I'm the QIS coordinator for SCASA. My experience with QIS in the past year has been a journey of growth, not only for our network, but the different schools, organizations, and churches that we have been interacting with. It has given us a platform to improve our systems and also strengthen them, and also work on the different policies that are needed to improve the lives of children at risk. Major impacts that QIS has been improving or picking to improve the lives of children has been coming up with different referral pathways to improve the lives of children that have been abused. So we have been working hand in hand with the different communities through the QIS champions to just come up with clinics that we can easily contact, victim support units, and also police stations that we can easily report different cases. Not only that, we've been encouraged by QIS to include the children in the different participation in the well-being and improvement of their churches and schools.
My name is Ishmael Shem. I'm pastor at Mavuno Church, Kisumu, and I work with Blue Cross Kenya as a director. We are both members of the Together for Children Network, T4C, here in Kisumu, and leading the network as the network coordinator for the past 3 years, and also having QIS as part of our training for the last year has been really, I would say, exciting, because learning on the things that either as Blue Cross we have done or as the church, and mostly church members here at the network has done, the experiences and the testimonies from everyone has been amazing. Most of the churches, because we are from a rural church, I would say, we are in the outskirts of the city itself, and so most of the churches that are members, few of them come from the city, but most of them are rural. And you find that most of the quality improvement systems that we have done this year so far, the 3 of those, mostly when we started with governance, and we realized that most of the churches do not actually have governance, especially in the leadership roles and in the hierarchy. And when we went through the training, and people have been testifying what they have tried to do in terms of policies, looking out for their own policies. For example, the constitution in the church, most members do not know about those, but now listening to them over and over again, and the improvements that have been made so far is really amazing. And going through this, and especially when we talked about financial management and accountability, some of us did not actually know what the church finances are supposed to do or how they're supposed to be managed. And we understand that sometimes it comes from a place of church is governed either by the pastor, or the founder is the pastor, the treasurer is the wife, and the Sunday school teacher sometimes is the wife or the daughter, some of these, because it is starting, and it has been really a journey with us to even come across QIS as a training for us has been of good experience, and is putting most of us in good place. I have done a few follow-up and coaching with the other members that we could, those who reached out, but also some of my other colleagues and the mentors have been going, visiting the rest. We have seen how growth has started to happen, but also knowing how they can now incorporate everyone and include also child participation in their services, and in understanding of the church growth has been amazing. For me, I think QIS coming to us even at this time, when most churches probably are still young and are growing and aspire to go further, has been amazing. This is going to be so much fun when we can all sit down and say, because of QIS, we have been put in a roadmap that is able to put us in the maybe global map, and our churches are running well and has been managed well, and everyone is aware of what is supposed to be done and are doing.
Thank you, Paul and Michelle. It was great I hope you found it really interesting to hear a little bit about their quality improvement system. I've now been at Viva for 3 years. And in my first few months at Viva, as I was getting to meet people around the world and understand more about Viva's work, I quickly realized that for me, the quality improvement system is one of the most significant programs within the Viva toolbox, as it were. And I've heard so many stories as I've traveled and met many of our partner networks and the organizations that make them up around the world, and hearing stories of just how impactful QIS has been for them and enabling them to have a long-term impact in the lives of children, to provide better care for children immediately, to put in place systems to ensure that they're sustainable and can have long-term impact, and that they become more attractive to funders as well. So it enables them to access funding they may not have been able to access otherwise. So it's been a delight over the past year to have some significant funding from US-based foundations to be able to redevelop a lot of the QIS resources and to work with these 6 networks in Africa. And we really do hope that as we embark on a mission to see new networks emerging all over the world, we recognize that QIS is a really important program to ensure that the churches and organizations that make up those networks are doing really good quality work with children. So we will certainly be praying and seeking to raise a lot more funding so we can get QIS translated into Spanish, and Portuguese would be a dream for us, so that we could see this done within our partner networks in Latin America. And in a very short moment, we are going to be moving across to Latin America. But first, we will pause, and please do write your prayers of thanks for what you've just heard about the quality improvement system in the chat. So I'll give you a few seconds to do that, and then we are going to move on to think about something called cafes in Latin America. So we're going to begin by watching a short film to introduce to you what cafes are, and then I'm going to hand over to Kizia, who is going to interview our network coach in Latin America, Isaac.
In Peru, children and families face challenges that have worsened in recent years. The economic crisis, unemployment, migration, and malnutrition have severely affected thousands of households. From Viva Network Peru, we respond with action and faith. Through the CAFI Comprehensive Training Learning Center, we support the most vulnerable children and families by providing education, food, family guidance, protection, and recreation spaces. In each cafe, the boys and girls learn, laugh, feel safe, and discover that their lives have value. Families receive tools to grow, heal wounds, and build environments where kindness and love are the language of the home. We are not just talking about assistance, but about integral transformation, which unites faith with action and the community with hope. We know that social issues do not disappear overnight, but we also know that every small act of love can change a story. That's why we invite you to be part of the change. Join Viva Network Peru, You can do so by donating, collaborating, or serving as a volunteer in our programs. Because when the church and the community rise together, the light of hope shines again. We continue transforming together for the children.
Great. So
In Peru,
Great. So, Isaac, we often talk about wanting children to be safe, thriving, and learning. Can you tell us a bit about how cafes like the ones we just saw there in Peru can help to achieve this?
Yes, it happened in Peru, but also in all the 9 countries that we are working with 12 network in this program called Cafe that are community centers that help the children in education, protection, basic needs, resilience, and more opportunity also for the families. So the big issues in the countries in Latin America is the protection, the education, basic needs, and also the time for mental health of the children. So the CAFE trying to build solution for this problem through the network that the members are churches, community-based organization, and also working with allies like government and other peer organization. So this program really want to solve the higher issues that the children suffering in their communities.
Amazing. So the cafe model was originally developed in Costa Rica just a few years ago, and as you mentioned, now there are 12 networks in 9 countries running, I think, 42 cafes. Can you tell us more about how many families and children have benefited this year?
Yes, the children that are benefit for this through this program every month increase. Yeah, really, every month. So until now, the children and adolescents that we have served are more than 5,000 children and teenagers. And we right now we are supported families through food or psychosocial help and care, more than 1,000 families. And we are mobilized, the leadership of the volunteer are more than 200, but there are also many more volunteers in each churches. We also provide educational support to more than 2,500 children that need strengthening the education. In nutritional program, we are reaching right now directly 1,800 children, and also the children and their family. And with the emotional and spiritual care, we offer this help for more than 1,200 children.
Wow, it's incredible and great to see it growing all the time. You mentioned that, well, we know that the CAFE model is both a model that can equip a church to care for children and families in their community, but it can also be a model that brings together churches, organizations, businesses across a community to collaborate to provide a service for children and families in their community. Both of these approaches can multiply and they can really help to see children safe, thriving, and learning. Could you tell us more about just one country where you're noticing that we're seeing this model replicating or more and more impact?
Yes, I could tell to all of you about 3 network countries in El Salvador, Venezuela, and Peru. They are working with a model where they training to the leader of the churches, and they train in protection in all the components of the CAFE. And after that, after some training, they start to open their own cafe in their churches, in their community. Some of the churches may open the cafe in their own local, but others in a public space, in public spaces. So, for example, right now in El Salvador, there are 9 coffee, 3 of them very new. In Peru, right now they are opening 15 coffee, 11 in Lima and 4 in Chiclayo. This is the new local network in Peru. So every 1, 2, or quarterly, there is a new coffee, new church and organization that open this program.
It's amazing. It's such a replicable program where people can come and see it and then just be supported to start their own as well. So that's really exciting. Another part of the CAFE program that's been really amazing this year has been the intention of helping the networks to come together, and all the networks or some of the networks which are running CAFE programs coming together to share learning with one another across Latin America. Could you give us a few examples of the benefits of this and why that benefits children and families even more?
Yes, this year we have amazing monthly meeting with each of the 12 CAFE network running CAFEs. And the network decide to work together in 4 areas: strengthening their education component, and then strengthening their volunteers, the volunteering, how engage more volunteers, and key allies, or work with other organizations to reach a bigger impact and lasting change, and finally the sustainability. So in each of these topics, they are growing together. Just to say, El Salvador present a good strategy working with key allies. We are building together a list of different organizations that we are working in each country. So the network know more organizations that could help them in one area of the CAFE. And some of them right now, they have new key allies similar to the El Salvador and other network that they are helping each other to each. In the sustainability area, we present one fundraising plan of one network, and the other network starting to replicate. And also the volunteer area, the Venezuela example was so good, and most of the networks start to imitate, to work in that way to encourage and engaging more volunteers in their CAFE.
Thank you. It's been so great to see the network sharing with each other, and we're really looking forward to their celebration event of the last year next week, where they're planning to do that and share some of their learning together. We're also seeing, you mentioned sustainability, but we're really seeing an increase in that. We're glad Viva was able to provide some financial support from US churches and foundations over the last year. But while that is going down a little, we're simultaneously seeing that networks are able to fundraise more for themselves. Could you share a bit more about that?
Yes, that is one of the great challenge that we have been working with the network this year. 5 network of these 12 that we have been talking about, they decide to put as a focus to work together in the sustainability, especially creating fundraising plan, local fundraising plan, and also planning together how we could work with Viva and the network to have the opportunity to get to more people and running joining campaign, fundraising campaign. And with this 5 network, we are running right now the final of the year activities. Some of them have dinner, other lunch, or other special event for local fundraising, and also for searching funds in USA, for example, and in other countries too. Can you hear me?
Yeah, that's great.
Sorry, that's this year is a pilot, and we hope the next year we will have a bigger impact for fundraising. There is more network that wanted to join in this action. So we hope the next year there will be 6, 8, or 10 network working and strengthening each other in their fundraising and the local fundraising and international fundraising plan.
Yeah, it's so positive because this is such a tough issue and something we've wrestled with for a long time. So it's really exciting to see networks taking the lead on that, and it's very encouraging. But finally, ultimately, all of this is about transforming the lives of children. So could you tell us your favorite story of a child who's been impacted by a CAFE this year?
Yes, as I said before, the education area is one of the main components of CAFE. The idea is similar to the learning spaces, work with the children that is almost to lost their studies or already lost their study and need to return to the school. And we have amazing stories in many countries. In Guatemala, some people that was almost to drop the school right now as the best student of the year, for example. But I want to put focus into stories, one in Guatemala and other in Paraguay, that is about children with disabilities. In both cases, children that in Guatemala, one boy cannot speak yet, and he is 9 years, and right now with help of the phonoaudiology and other therapy of speaking, he is starting to talk. It's a miracle. Just he needs an attention, a specific attention. And right now, he is able to learn many more things because he has the ability to do it, but only needs a help for start to talk and express by himself. In Paraguay, it's a similar things. One girl of 8 years have before have struggled to hold a pen and write, and then with the help of the psychologists, psychopedagogists, and other right now can write. She is returning to school, and his sister too, and right now is learning and having this opportunity to go again to the school. So this is two of the most impact story that I could see within the CAFES program.
Thank you so much for sharing. Those are really powerful stories. And it's just amazing to see that although we keep talking about that big scale of connecting globally, and that's really powerful, it all increases the impact on those individual children's stories, which is what it's all about. So thank you so much for your part in that and sharing that with us tonight. Back to Phil.
Yeah, thank you so much, Isaac, for sharing the journey that the Latin American networks have been on over this past year as they've developed CAFES. And as Kezia said, it was wonderful that you have rooted our evening back into what it's all about, and that is the transformation of individual children. We will take a moment to pause for the last time, and it would be wonderful if you could share a prayer of thanks on the chat. So I will just pause to give you a few seconds to do that as we thank God for what is going on in the lives of children as churches across Latin America come together to support families in a holistic way. We are almost at the end of our time together. We'll be finishing in a few minutes, but if you have questions or have any comments, I, and I'm sure a few others of the Viva team, may be able to hang around at the end, so feel free to do so as well. But likewise, if you have other places to go, when we wrap up in a few more minutes, don't feel you have to hang around for the question and answer piece. You feel free to go. And that also applies for Viva staff as well, because for some of you, it's now the middle of the night. and you might want to be getting to sleep, but we really appreciate you joining us. There is one more group of people that we do want to thank, though, and that is you, our supporters. Whether you have prayed for us this year, whether you have volunteered for us this year, whether you have supported us financially this year, the stories you have heard during our time together today have been possible because of your generous support. So we thank you. And as I mentioned earlier in our time together today, tomorrow we will be launching this year's Christmas appeal. And the focus of our Christmas appeal this year will be very much to seek to fund new networks in new cities around the world, because we believe that the time is now where this needs to be a priority. This year really has been quite a year. The world has faced disasters, division, numerous conflicts, and more chaos than I can remember for a long time. And I imagine that 2000 years ago, people were saying something fairly similar before Jesus was born. And then one day, amid all the chaos, hope broke through. Hope appeared in human flesh, hope personified, and hope had a name. His name was Jesus, Saviour, Emmanuel, God with us. And this event changed history forever and gave us a hope for the future. And it is this hope that is the foundation for all we do. It's this hope that motivates us. And we want children everywhere to experience this hope as well. So this Christmas, could you help more children dare to hope? Could you help make hope a reality for more children? And as Viva celebrates our 30th birthday next year, we're going to have a renewed focus of bringing together more churches and community-based organizations in cities around the world. In a world full of chaos, we want hope to overflow. So, and we know that each new network will see tens of thousands more children receiving support from churches and faith-based organizations. It will see hundreds of thousands of children receiving better quality of care. And it may well see millions of children positively impacted by child-friendly policies and legislations. This is what we want to be investing in over the next few years. And we would ask you to consider joining us. We have talked a lot about how we can do more together. And that is the same when it comes to our supporters from all over the world coming together to do more. So it might be that you are a regular donor of Viva already, and if so, we thank you very much. Perhaps you could increase your donation by £3 a month. That would enable us to invest in new cities around the world, to support them as they're seeing networks of churches emerge to do more for children. It might be that you're able to start supporting Viva with a £30 a month donation. Or perhaps it's a single one-off donation this Christmas for £300 that we would put into supporting new networks emerge in cities around the world. Or maybe you're in a position to pledge £3,000 a year for the next 5 years to really enable us to build a network in a particular city around the world. Or maybe you fall somewhere in between. But we thank you so much for the support that you do give Viva. And if you are able to support us as we go into this next stage of our journey, as we really focus on building new networks in cities all over the world, we'd be delighted if you are able to support us in this way. So I want to thank you. I want to thank you for giving us your time today, whether you're here live with us or whether you're watching the recording. I want to thank you for the support you have given Viva. Many of you have supported Viva for many, many years now. I hope you have a thankful heart having heard some of the stories you have from what is going on in cities around the world as churches and organisations come together to do more for the world's most vulnerable children.